Well, Al Sharpton is set to descend on Washington, D.C. today to tie up traffic and lead yet another protest march in the name of justice or something. This, as new reports show, his organization, which is called the National Action Network, is over $1 million in debt. They don't pay their taxes. So is this organization in real financial trouble? Yes. Joining us now, Jillian Melcher of the National Review, who's been doing a lot of really good reporting on this and has some of the details. Jillian, thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
So, obviously, the National Action Network is strongly in favor of you paying more taxes. But they're not paying any taxes, it sounds like.
Well, it's not necessarily that they're not paying taxes. It's that this 2013 tax document that I got provides a snapshot of their financials, and there's a lot there to question. I mean, they owe $800,000 in taxes. They say they've got a settlement to pay it off. But it's $1.33 million in the red, net negative assets.
Right.
And yet Al Sharpton's drawing a huge salary, and the organization also owes him money for a loan, which raises questions about conflict of interest.
Well, and this is a saga that's been unfolding for 30 years. I mean, Sharpton was indicted for tax fraud 25 years ago. He's been in the news on and off over the decades for not paying his vendors, not paying his taxes again and again and again. This is an unmistakable pattern, no?
Yeah, I mean, New York Times reported this week that he's $4.5 million in tax debt. Now, he disputes that number, says it's not current, and that's difficult to tell. But I think with this organization in particular, you look at it and you say this organization is not in good financial health. Now, the gold standard for a not-for-profit is that they're supposed to be transparent with it. Yet when I asked him many questions about his consultants, $600,000 spent on it, he didn't have good answers for me. When I asked him how much current tax debt he had, wouldn't answer the question. So I think this is an organization that it raises a lot of questions. What we know about it is that it's not in good financial health and that it has considerable tax debt.
Well, it raises questions about criminal behavior, actually. And he was asked by the New York Times, and his response was, well, you're racist. You're racist, you don't like black people, and you don't like President Obama. And speaking of President Obama, Sharpton's one of his closest advisors, as you know. And the White House press secretary, Josh Earnest, was asked recently at the White House, how can you have a guy who doesn't pay his taxes, by the way, who's also a racial demagogue, but doesn't pay his taxes into the White House so often? And Earnest's answer was, I don't know what you're talking about. I haven't read that story.
Well, I think that is another thing about the organization and about Sharpton that raises more questions than I have answers to, and that's pretty unfortunate.
Right. So, and also keep in mind, the National Action Network, the group that hasn't paid its taxes and didn't withhold its employees' taxes, the president himself addressed this group this year.
Yeah, I mean, there have been a ton of high-ranking officials that have gone in and addressed it. Now, what I think is so problematic, we don't know where the money is coming from. I've heard that it's a lot of small donors in addition to corporate donors. And just the financial health of this organization is not good. I mean, we've got $100,000 going to a consultancy that is owned by one of the former people in charge of National Action Network. That raises questions about conflict of interest. Sharpton won't answer questions about his loan to it, won't answer questions about how much tax. I've got a lot of questions
When he was
here.
on trial facing felony tax charges 20 years ago, he contended that he owned nothing, including the suits in his closet. He said, and I'm quoting, I have access to those suits. So this is Obama's closest domestic policy advisor. Jillian, you're doing important work, and I can't wait to see what you unearth. Thanks for coming on this morning.
I really appreciate it.